It begins with the splintering of cedar wood. The great gates of the cathedral do not swing open, they shatter inward. It is August 11th, 1480. 18,000 Ottoman soldiers pour over the walls, seeking not just conquest, but a specific calculated erasure. The Nuns of Otranto, huddled upon the vast mosaic floor of the Tree of Life, face a fate that history whispers was worse than death. Among them, a sister clutches a heavy iron key, cold against her sweating palm, now utterly useless. The air chokes with the dust of pulverized limestone and the metallic tang of fresh blood. Why did Gedik Ahmed Pasha order these women kept alive while the men were marched to the Hill of Minerva? The records suggest a motive darker than simple slavery. What irreversible cost would be paid by those who were not granted the mercy of the sword? The worst fate is not to die, but to be unmade while breathing. If you enjoy these dark histories, leave a like and subscribe and comment below where you're listening from. And now, back to the story. The screaming in the cathedral nave ceases, abruptly replaced by the rhythmic clatter of iron. The survivors are not killed, they are processed. Ottoman scribes set up portable desks directly on the blood-slicked mosaic, indifferent to the holy ground. They dip quills into inkwells, turning living women into assets. The nuns are stripped of their outer veils. The heavy wool, their identity, is torn away, leaving them exposed to the salt air and the appraising gaze of the troops. A soldier demands the iron key from the sister's hand. She releases it. Change beat. The scribes stop writing names. They begin assigning numbers based on estimated market value. They are marched out of the cool stone sanctuary into the blinding August heat. The path leads toward the harbor, separating them from the men being herded toward the Hill of Minerva for execution. The nuns are steered into temporary pens constructed of rough timber. Here, the institutional control tightens. A translator moves down the line, offering a calculated mercy, a simple phrase to speak, a conversion of faith, and the shackles will be struck off. They are told they can be wives of officers, not slaves in the galleys. To accept their kindness is to agree to your own permanent erasure. Sister Elena, referenced in later chronicles, does not speak. She presses her thumb against the rough wood of the pen until the nail turns white, anchoring herself to the physical world to stop the trembling. She recites the Psalter in her mind, locking the words behind her teeth. The water ration is distributed, one ladle, warm and tasting of copper. It is withheld from those who weep, and silence becomes the only currency they have left. Change beat. The water barrel is sealed. The translator announces that only the silent will eat tonight. As the sun sets, the ships in the harbor loom like floating dungeons. The decision is made, they will not remain in Otranto. The ledger is closed, the gangplank is lowered, a narrow bridge between their home and a void. They step onto the rocking deck, the coast of Apulia receding into the dark. The horizon is not an escape, but a wall. They are unloaded in Vlore, not as prisoners of war, but as raw material for a new lattice of society. The market square smells of unwashed bodies and expensive spices, a nauseating conflict of senses. Here, the condition is stated openly. An Ottoman official, clean-shaven and speaking fluent Italian, walks the line of women. He offers a specific exchange: renounce the vows taken in Otranto, accept the faith of the victor, and vanish into the comfort of a high-ranking household. It is a soft pressure, insidious because it offers warmth, food, and safety. The choice is simple: become a wife and be forgotten, or remain a nun and be destroyed. Change beat. The official signals the guards. The older nuns are dragged to the left, towards the labor pits. The young are pushed to the right, toward the veiled palanquins of the harems. Sister Elena stands before the official. He holds out a tray of dates and clear water, a stark contrast to the bilge water of the crossing. He asks for her new name, the name she will take in this new life. She looks at the food. Her hand lifts, hovering for a second over the sweet fruit, a single trembling hesitation, before she pulls it back to her chest. She looks him in the eye. I am already spoken for. The refusal is quiet, devoid of theatrics, but it shatters the atmosphere of transaction. The official does not strike her. He simply nods, and the tray is withdrawn. Change beat. The soft pressure evaporates. The recusants, those who refuse the silk, are moved to the sub-basements of the citadel. Comfort is a sharper blade than steel, but they have chosen the knife. Down in the dark, the escalation begins. Light is removed, then conversation is forbidden. The space is too small to lie down. They must stand or kneel. The intention is to break the mind by removing the passage of time. The captors want them to beg for the conversion they previously rejected. But the isolation backfires. The nuns of Otranto are trained in silence. They are disciplined in deprivation. What was meant to break them becomes their armor. The damp cellar becomes a cell. The hunger becomes a holy fast. They turn the stone walls into a mental monastery, reciting the offices in the dark, syncing their breathing to prayers no one else can hear. The true why of their survival reveals itself here. Gedik Ahmed Pasha did not spare them for their labor or their bodies alone. He kept them because to break a bride of Christ is to prove that his conquest of Otranto was absolute, a spiritual victory over the West. The price of their resistance is not death, but a life stripped of all dignity, sold off to the lowest, harshest corners of the empire where they will be worked until the bone snaps. Change beat. The heavy door creaks open. A new scribe enters with a final ledger. There are no more offers of marriage. Those who refuse the silk are struck from the record of valuable assets and moved to the dead ledger, alive but socially terminated. They are to be sent to the copper mines of Anatolia or the field camps of the frontier, places where names are not recorded. To be forgotten by history is the punishment for remembering who you are. Decades dissolve into the gray dust of the Anatolian plateau. In a remote work camp near the Taurus Mountains, the dead ledger is still open. The hands that once turned the delicate pages of illuminated manuscripts now engage in the brutal, repetitive rhythm of breaking stones. But in the deep, unlit recesses of a limestone cave used for grain storage, something impossible has been constructed. Change beat. A routine inspection by a new overseer reveals a loose board behind a stack of rotting sacks. He pushes it aside. Inside the hollowed niche, there is no contraband gold or stolen food. On the dirt floor, smooth river pebbles have been arranged with obsessive geometric precision. They form the twisting roots and branches of the tree of life, the exact mosaic pattern from the floor of the Otranto Cathedral. They did not leave the church behind in the blood of 1480. They carried it in their minds and rebuilt it, pebble by stolen pebble, in the heart of the enemy's land. The empire owns their bodies, but it cannot locate the map to their souls. A fragment of a letter preserved in the Venetian State Archives, dated 1502, provides the crucial evidence. A traveling merchant writes to the Doge of shadow women in the East, who speak a broken dialect of Pugliese Italian. He describes a wordless rite of memory. When a sister collapses from exhaustion, the others do not wail. They gather around her in a tight circle, blocking the guard's view. One places a shard of sharp limestone into the dying woman's palm, a proxy for the iron key taken in Act 1. It is a key made of the earth of their exile, meant to open the gates of a kingdom no army can breach. Change beat. The merchant notes that the superstitious local guards have stopped beating them, unnerved by their unnatural, coordinated silence. This reveals the hidden truth that contradicts the total erasure feared in Act 1. We assumed they were unmade, their identity dissolved into the Ottoman population. But the excavation of a collapsed cistern near the old mines suggests a different reality. Rough crosses are carved into the bedrock, hidden below the waterline where no officer would look. They did not convert. They effectively established a clandestine convent for 30 years, consecrating the very ground of their captivity. The irreversible cost was not paid by the nuns, but by the empire, which unwittingly hosted a sanctuary of pure resistance deep within its own territory. Change beat. The lantern light in the cistern dies. The carvings are swallowed by the dark once more. What was buried here was not a corpse, but a seed that refused to rot. The Ottoman tax registers for the Taurus region, dated 1515, contain a series of blank lines. Where names should be, the scribe has simply drawn a horizontal stroke. The shadow women have ceased to generate value. Therefore, in the eyes of the state, they have ceased to exist. There are no headstones on the scree slopes of the mountains. The wind from the steppes carries only dust, burying the entrance to the cave where the pebble mosaic lies in permanent darkness. In Otranto, the contrast is blinding. The cathedral is scrubbed clean of the blood from 1480. The bones of the 800 men executed on the Hill of Minerva are reverently gathered. They are stacked behind glass in the Chapel of the Martyrs, a macabre wall of skulls staring out at the faithful. They are canonized, celebrated, and named. But for the women who boarded the ships, there is no shrine. The history books offer a paragraph, a footnote about enslavement, and then move on to the next war. The iron key taken from the sister's hand in Act 1 was likely melted down, forged into a common nail or a horseshoe, its purpose utterly dissolved. Change beat. A tourist in Otranto walks across the Tree of Life mosaic today, their sneakers squeaking on the stone, unaware that the true altar was built in a slave pit. The erasure is the final violence. The mercy of survival was a slow, grinding removal from the human record. They became ghost stories told by Turkish villagers, legends of mute spirits who refused to die until their work was done. The archive closes, the ink dries, the witnesses are all gone. We are left only with the echo of a prayer recited in a void, a resistance that left no mark on the surface of the world because it happened entirely within. Subscribe, hit the bell, and like. The silence you hear now is not peace. It is the sound of a story ending before it was finished.